All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. And how's everybody doing this morning? We have Joseph Lee with us for the famous Impact Hour. And yes, last week we touched base on a lot of things. And actually, this is the start of Black History Month. So what a better time to have Joseph on here to talk about Black history. I seen something the other day. It was um oh, what week was it? Fraternity week, and they had that going on with all the alphas and all that. They got something going on that's supposed to kick off Black History Week.
Yeah, I have to check. I know we've got different things. This weekend, I'm a Kappa, and we have the HBCU um, uh, round table, so to speak, coming up this weekend. Where we're going to be inviting people to check out HBCUs. But there's always going to be some things going on Black History Month for us. So all the Divine Nine should, they have different events and things going on. So just check your local chapters, and you can check for in San Antonio, the SAC, San Antonio Alumni Chapter, Kappas, and all of our events will be on there as well.
Okay, so on Black History Month, when it comes up, I know everybody get into it, and I'm a firm believer it should be every day. It should be once a month. They give us 1 month. Uh, it even should be classified as that. If they treated everybody equal, we wouldn't have to do that. The first thing they say, why y'all gotta have Black History Month? Same way y'all got 4th of July and everything else, you know. And then they really get like history, for instance. That crazy governor in Florida turned around and he wants to be in charge of education. He really wanted to say about books and everything and education, all that stuff. And it's going to lead to mental health. Trust me on this one.
Well,
So,
I think it's interesting that he wants to be in charge of education, because I think it's really more he wants to be in charge of miseducation and not educating correctly, and pulling African American studies out of the curriculum. And I know that from what I've heard, there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be lost in the state of Florida, because of I know the Kappas, we're pulling a lot of formal activities. I think we maybe had a conclave or something that was scheduled for Florida, and we're not doing it now there because of their effort to try to pull African American history out of schools, and take them out of the places where we fought so hard to put education about our history in the schools. So anytime you have an effort to pull education resources out of a school, I think you start down a dangerous path, and a very dangerous path.
yeah.
And we still have a lot of the same things. I meant to talk about this last time, but it was still fresh and new, and waiting for the details to come out. But we still have to deal with this thing. Tyree Nichols being killed, how he was killed, and also who he was killed by, right?
Right.
And looking at how is it that this system and this society can go so backwards, continue to go so backwards, when these situations are so much out there. We just had the George Floyd situation. We've had multiple situations all over the country. We had a young man up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who was killed by a police officer. And it just seems like, regardless of the color now, regardless of the officer, the results are the same, in terms of, what's going on. And we have to continue to fight and educate, how do these situations come about? Then how can we avoid them, in the future? And
Yeah.
what about our culture, is so, caught up on both ends, right? So now we've got 5 officers, that are African American. I think there's one that's Caucasian, that is now their lives are, their legacy is going to be connected to this forever. And now we've got a man, and more importantly, we have a man who's lost his life, for for what?
And you
You
know
know.
what? And he was handcuffed.
Well, now there's and it was making it worse. Is now there's other stories coming out about maybe one of the officers, Tyree, possibly was, dating his girlfriend or whatever the case may be. But it's just on the heels of George Floyd, and all the other, murders that have happened and deaths involving law enforcement. We've got some changes that have to continue to be made, and I think the consciousness, awareness. And also, I'll just be honest, we gotta get to a point where when we dealing with the police, there's certain protocols that we have to understand and learn, and not put us in a position to hold court in the street. It never is going to work to our benefit when you're holding court in the street. If you understand what a cop is, it's a constable on patrol, and that position was given, that title was given before they even got to the United States. That's an old European term where they actually grant the authority to render some judgments on the street. And that's why law enforcement can do some of these things that they do, but you can understand when you're on the street, it's really to their advantage. So survive the encounter. Don't resist, don't run away. Try to, comply as best you possibly can, and then survive the situation, and then contact your attorneys, then, get more rebellious, so to speak, when you have an advantage. But when you got 4 officers on you and they all had the license to take your life, now, yeah, okay, they will be charged and most likely convicted of murder, but that man is gone now.
I was reading something on there. They're saying they gave over 100 commands in such a short time. He didn't know which way to go or what to say or what to do. He said, I'm doing it. Then they give him another command and then another one. And it's just crazy.
It's sad. Understanding how the mind works. If you are in fight or flight, panicking, you may not comply normally, or you're not thinking clearly. Who knows what's going to happen? But that's the same case for the police too, right? When they're in fight or flight, they're supposed to be trained and dealing with, these situations, and dealing with, situations where they are fearful. But, this one, I don't know if that was the case or if they were just mad that they had to chase Mr. Nichols. I don't know. But what I do know is the result I'm sick of. I'm sick of the result being another African-American male killed or female killed after interacting with law enforcement, and not seemingly for anything life-threatening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This isn't, we're talking about traffic violations. We're talking about, minor things that's resulting to an escalation in somebody's life being taken. And I just think that somehow we've got to figure out how to interject something in the law enforcement that over certain things, there's certain levels you just can't go to. Like, when we're driving out here, like in San Antonio, I don't know if everybody needs to know this, but I'm gonna put it out there. For high speed chases, San Antonio Police Department, they're not authorized to engage with you in a long distance, chase. They have to disengage for public safety. So why couldn't it be that if this is a minor traffic violation or something minor, why do we have to use lethal force or even anything close to it?
And have 10 or 15 policemen show up with something minor.
Yeah, it just really, I don't know how all of that works. I'm not in law enforcement, but it just seems like, for us, it seems like there's a lot of excessive, and it's not just us. Remember the young man that was shot at McDonald's not too long ago?
Yeah.
It's just, we're gonna have to do something with the training. We're gonna have to do something with the limits of a power that you can do in certain situations. Yeah. And unless you are faced with a lethal threat, maybe you shouldn't be able to utilize lethal resources.
Yeah. Now, one thing, listen to somebody mentally, they're stating that Black kids, when they see TV, anything that happens, it's always a Black man being killed by police. That's all they see is that. And mentally, when it goes through a young black man's head, and I'm gonna be the next one going out there for something minor. And all these killings been minor, like the one guy in New York was choked to death for selling cigarettes. Then the other guy down in Kansas City walked away. They shot him in the back. Everything has nothing. It hasn't been a shootout or anything. It all been minor offenses.
Yeah. Grand Rapids, Michigan, Loyola, and I forget, I don't know the last name, but Crumple's just up there. Traffic stop ends up with a tussle and the officer shooting a young man in the back of the head, right? So, I mean, and then you hear people say, well, they were doing something and they just didn't comply. Okay, I get it, right? But death as a result of these things, it just seems like we have to figure out, a cap on how far we will allow certain things to go that aren't life-threatening.
Yeah.
It just, whether using the taser, and then we had that incident where the lady accidentally grabbed her gun instead of the taser. So it's like, we're on the short end of the stick on everything, in terms of, and the way the laws are written, if an officer is fearful, well, there's some preloaded baggage with that, right? If you see us, unfortunately, a lot of times, law enforcement deems us as unsafe or we're dangerous by default. So, just knowing the mindset, and this is where psychology is important. When you understand the mindset of the person that's coming towards you or dealing with you, you know how best to deal with that situation. At least you get the best outcome. So if you know that if you're a person of color, if you know that officers are going to be uneasy, or, a lot of us now tend to think that there's a motive, but not necessarily, but could be. But how we interact, our attitude in that situation can really play a role in de-escalating. Not saying it all the time, but majority of the time when you get pulled over, having the lights on, having the flashes on for them, having your license, registration, everything right there, no sudden movements, not saying, hey, why'd you pull me over? Like, hey, what's wrong, officer? What did you pull me over for? And just a change of attitude, can make a big difference. But when you run and you get their fight or flight going and you got your fight or flight going, bad things can happen. When you resist, bad things can happen. And I try to teach this. I was at a school one time and they misinterpreted what I was saying. My goal is always to have people to survive the encounter. If you don't survive the encounter, there's nothing else to talk about.
Right.
So we got to stop giving the ability for law enforcement to take our life. Or in that case, like I was talking to some kids about Trayvon Martin. Horrible situation. It still bothers me to this day. But I wonder if that young man if Trayvon wouldn't have just not fought back and just said, hey, I live here. Let's call the police and get some help in this situation, if he would still be here. So we've got to start learning from our situations on how to survive the encounter. And if you want to go back like in the 60s and 50s and all that, you got to give a lot of respect for our ancestors. Since we're talking about Black History Month, everybody talking about what we should do, what we shouldn't do. There was a time when the police officers were the Klan. There was a time when you didn't have anybody to call. And some may feel that's the same way now. I think that's changed somewhat, definitely, not just somewhat, significantly. But I do think that we have to understand we have to survive to thrive. We have to get past these situations. So not escalating, getting home, then contacting the attorneys, then contacting community leaders, then getting the help. That's what we have to teach our kids, and we have to demonstrate that as well. How we interact with our kids. Our kids are watching. Our kids are watching. So our conversation. I remember back in the day, one of the rap groups I used to listen to, Ice Cube and all that. And they had this group, and one of their favorite songs was "F the Police."
Yep.
Now, if you start listening to that, and it's got a nice beat to it, you start thinking about the experience of law enforcement and being a black man. When you get pulled over, you're going in the wrong mindset. When the police, you get pulled over, you got "F the Police" playing in your head. It probably is not going to go so well, right?
No, it's not, because you're going to come out with attitude. They're going to come back with attitude, and it takes off from there.
Right. So social skills, I believe it or not, you said we're talking about mental health issues. Social skills are essential. I say social skills are a survival skill.
Yes.
Especially now, because you got to think about it. Look at the young man who, unfortunately, being tried for capital murder, for killing a young lady for rejecting him.
Yeah.
I mean, social skills, not being able to handle rejection, not being able to handle. Look, back in the day when we were younger, please. A no was just an invitation to keep going, to talk to another girl.
There you go. You're right.
Yeah, not way that could be misconstrued. No means no in other ways. You better stop. But no means somebody want to talk to you. Whatever, you go on to you're gonna find somebody. But nowadays, you've rejected me. My world must stop, or there must be some major thing, because your ego is so big at that early age. And we know that as teenagers and young adults, young males, we can have ego issues, right?
And you're right about that. I remember this. I went out with this girl. We went to the carnival and stuff. We walked back to the car. This dude came out of nowhere and wanted to whoop my butt for taking his girlfriend to the carnival. She turned around and said, "I have never been your girlfriend. You need to stop all that. I don't like you. I told you I didn't like you." I'm sitting there. This dude want to beat me up. And the girl done rejected him so many times, but nothing happened, because she told me, "You better get to stepping somewhere." I just kept on. I sort of like, I ain't getting in the middle of this stuff. That's between those two.
See, the difference now and then, Ron, is a lot of these kids are quick to go to a gun to solve their issue. And I know of kids. I've had one gentleman that was in my mentorship program, and I'm about to, I bring him up frequently. He was in the mentorship program, and this was over a girl. His ex-girlfriend was in the car, or some girl that he was used to deal with was in the car with another person, and he kind of scoffed or laughed, kind of like, "Yeah, that's my old girl," whatever. So this guy got in the car, young man got in the car, had two other girls with him, and he dropped off. The guy followed him, shot him in the back of the head.
Man.
This just happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Here, a few years ago here in San Antonio. So just understanding that you don't know who you're dealing with out here as a young man or young lady. You don't have any idea who you're dealing with. And a lot of these kids, they are so quick to grab a gun to solve their problems or solutions or whatever. We've got to do a better job at teaching kids on how to deal with social issues, rejection, how to talk to folks, how to solve problems. I think it's really a skill that we're losing because of, where they at. These things, where's my phones? These cell phones.
These things right here.
Those things right there, these things right here. If you want to know one of the best ways to help your kids, your teenagers, monitor or remove their social media.
I had Kat Brown on yesterday. I had her on, and we brought that up with the pandemic. She said domestic violence went up and everything. I said, you know why? Because of electronic devices. Back in my days, when the snowstorm was outside, we played cards, Monopoly. We played board games. We didn't have electronics to keep us occupied, and we got along fine. All right, so what? You lost a Monopoly. We played another game, kept on going. But now you don't have that interaction anymore.
Yeah, we interactions now. I remember when I was out in California, we were doing this mentorship group out there, and we, the military put on a nice function for the kids at one of the youth centers. And, they had food and they had a DJ, they had, kind of like a little mixer for the teens to get together, maybe dance and have, chaperones and all that. Do you know these guys, never forget it. There's this game that's real popular, and it's still popular now, called Smash Brothers. And the guys walk around with their little Nintendo Switches or whatever, and they can play each other and whatnot. So do you know at a dance, the girls are sitting over here, the guys are sitting over here, and the guys are all on their Nintendo Switches. The girls are sitting over there looking at them like, you gonna dance or y'all gonna talk to us or whatever?
Yeah.
So I pull them outside and teasing them like, hey, you got girls here, y'all gonna dance or what? They're like, yeah, we'll dance. I look back and Ron, these nuts are in a circle on the dance floor with their Nintendo Switches dancing. I
Oh
said,
man.
we might have a population decrease like Japan or something,
Yeah.
I'm concerned about this next generation and how they go procreate or meet with people, because you had to dance on Nintendo Switch and a group of girls looking over at you. But that just shows, what's up, now, I mean, me and you, we've been married for so long, we don't know how the dating thing works, but now they even date based on this,
Yeah.
swiping to the left or right or whatever. And
Yeah.
so all that of getting to know somebody, watching them, seeing how, if they are the type of person that you might want to, that kind of sounds like a stalker. I didn't mean but observing people naturally and talking to them to get to know them. I don't know, man. It seems like that's something of the past almost.
Yeah. It is, because we would go to high school dances. They don't have it anymore. We had things we call sock hops.
Yeah.
What was the
Well,
other one?
you're a little older than me if you're talking about
Yeah.
sock hops.
Oh yeah, we
I
had
don't, I
that.
don't know nothing about no sock hop, but
And
I
then,
know about a dance.
and then it was turnabout where the girl asked the guy out. We had stuff like that going on in high school. And well, you bring it up right now. What's a sock hop? What's a turnabout? Oh, y'all did that back in the days?
And you know what? You weren't going to that party until you met the parents.
Exactly.
See, that's the other thing that a lot of this generation forgot. The parents, they have a role, but then again, you got to be a parent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To have, for your child to feel like they want to bring you to meet them. You got to be living like something. So
over here, my phone's over here.
okay, you didn't just reached out the window to get your phone.
Yeah, I did. I did good, didn't I? Now I'm back in.
That magical window back there.
Oh man, if y'all didn't see it earlier. I got up, walked somewhere, and I clicked Joseph in, and then I was walking in. Joseph swept down. I came through the window like it was a door.
Yeah, man. I'm seeing some magical tricks.
Hey, I want to switch gears over to schools. I read an article today that really just tore me to pieces. This teacher, two kids came up to him and said, this student said he wants to shoot you. Okay. He turned around, reported to the principal. Wasn't nothing done. I think he was a social study teacher and a coach. Mm-hmm. So after that, he went over to the field house, getting ready to coach. The kid that threatened him was there. So he told the other coaches, this kid threatened me earlier. I'm going to go in the office right here and can y'all deal with him? Which I thought was the right thing to do. So they escorted the kid out, told him he had to go home and all that. He did all that. Still, nothing happened. So he went home and got on TikTok and said what happened to him at school today and nothing was done. Okay. It went viral right away. Other parents want to know how come they didn't know about it. So the next day, he didn't go to school the next day because he felt threatened. But the day after that, the principal called and said, I need to see you in my office at 7:40. Why 7:40? I don't know. But he went there, thought maybe he was going to be fired or anything. And she said, I'm going to have to put you on suspension. He said, for what? For falsifying what happened. Right? In other words, they think he lied on what happened. There was witnesses there when it happened. So he went home. Other parents got upset about it, why they didn't do it. So the school turned around and sent out a letter saying there was an incident at the school the other day. The police were involved. The police never showed up. They never called them until the parents started saying what was going on. So basically, this guy got a lawyer now, you know. So that reminds me of Virginia. They was told this kid had a gun. Nobody did nothing. So are we at that point that we're just, okay, somebody else threatened somebody, whoopee poo? Are we at that point now?
We've been at that point. That point, think about what happened up in the Detroit area where they sent him home, told him that he's presented with some homicidal ideation, writings, pictures, whatever, recommended that he be evaluated. And the parents sent him back to school after even having a conversation of the mom telling the young man, don't do it. Don't don't do that. Just don't go up there and shoot up the school type deal.
Yeah.
After they had purchased him a gun. So that's why they were charged, right? So it's not that and there's two things wrong there. The school let him come back without having the discharge paperwork or proof that he had been seen and evaluated. And that's why the school district got sued. And then the parents got charged because they were incompetent and not making sure that their child wasn't evaluated and all the threats removed from him. So, yeah, I mean, we've been in that situation where a lot of times schools, I think schools do a decent job once somebody identifies with suicide or homicidal ideation. I think a lot of schools know the protocols, and because of our current climate, they are getting better at that. But that's still an area that we have to work. That once a child says certain things, if they're threatening to kill somebody, we have to always take that seriously. But you did say something interesting. The one that was threatened, he did something that he thought was okay to do, but what happened to him? He used what?
Yeah.
Social media. And instead of the person that was doing the situation getting in trouble, the person that put something out there on social media got in trouble.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying. Social media, almost every time it involves teenagers, that's where a lot of times the problem comes from or is worsened because of it. Now, what I would want to know in that school district is, and I will have to talk to, I would talk to some school board members to say, well, you have penalized somebody who's put information out. Are you more concerned about the reputation of the school or the safety of the children?
Yeah.
Because if he's putting out something factual or even his opinion, but it's valid, that they had witnesses, then he should be able to be free to say it. But the fact of the matter is, most schools like to kind of have the appearance that they got it together until it's obvious they don't, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the only way to make sure that schools have it together is for parents to go to those meetings that they think are too boring. Go to those board meetings.
Yes.
Yeah, go and find out what your school's protocol is. Voice your concerns, right? If something happens with my daughter and they don't like it, they know they're going to hear from the leads. They know it.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's either going to be mama or daddy going to be talking, and I'm going to get right to the root of it. Now, I'm going to give them a chance to fix it, but trust and believe they're going to know eyes are on the situation, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I do as a therapist working with kids. I go in, and if there's a particular issue, if a child is being bullied or whatever, I want to know what steps are being made, what groups are being done to educate and provide those social skills to everybody involved. Because the reason we're having all these shootings, the reason we're having all these violence and stuff like that is because somewhere along the way, we have forgotten that school is also responsible for partially socializing our kids as well. Meaning that we have to teach them what's acceptable in society in large, in a smaller society that they have in school. If they aren't adjusting well in school, not rocket science, and no, they're not going to be adjusting well outside of school.
Yeah.
So we got to empower we got to first educate, make sure and most of our educators are educated in behavioral issues and, what to do. My question is, when you have somebody that does opposite of what they know they should do in a duty to warn situation, then I think it needs to be investigated. I need everybody that did not do what they were supposed to do needs to be investigated, be educated, and possibly be reprimanded. Because it should be obvious at this point when a child presents with some homicidal ideation conversation, talking about I'm going to kill somebody, or drawing pictures, or acting strange, bringing dead animals to school, which a couple of these folks did. The one up in Michigan brought some dead animals to the school. Salvador had a bag of dead cats in the car. When you start seeing stuff like that, ding, it should be. You don't have to know this DSM-5 to know that's not normal behavior.
Exactly.
That's not, something's not right about that, and now when there is that feeling, that instinct that something ain't right, the mistake is people just go, well, hopefully nothing will happen, or hopefully somebody else will deal with it. Well, unfortunately, hopefully it becomes active shooter. Hopefully becomes a murder suicide, like the guy out in California, the 75-year-old that went off. He was going to commit suicide, but before he committed suicide, he's going to take out 11 people.
Yeah.
So that's from not having the social skills, resources, having way too many guns on the street, and we can't do nothing about the guns on the street right now. The NRA has bought and sold our political process. Yeah, that's just the way we are right now.
Yeah.
So the only way we can arm ourselves to protect ourselves is we have to be the front line. When we see somebody that's acting strange, we see somebody that has made a threat, then we got to act on that. Give the law enforcement the ability to say, hey, this person is making a threat, and we need to have that person home checked, parents notified, family notified that this person is on the radar. And we need to make sure we get all those weapons at least locked up for 30 to 90 days, or let people know that, hey, we know that this is the case, so you guys are going to be responsible for this individual. If it's a minor. If it's an adult, hey, place them on the ED, get them evaluated, get that house sanitized from all, semi-automatic and automatic weapons.
Sort of like they do sex offenders, they have to register if they move to different neighborhoods.
All right.
I'm seeing something like that all be set up with somebody that we know that's unstable, that got guns. He should register too in the neighborhood so they know what they're dealing with.
No, somebody that's unstable should never have a gun.
Well, yes, we know
See,
that.
That's the thing. Once a person has homicidal ideation, I don't think they should ever have a gun, because whatever triggered them to have homicidal ideation they may get triggered again, and you may not catch it.
Well, 45 signed that bill that anybody with mental health can have a gun.
Well, he had mental health, so of course he had mental health issues, But anyway, so we're responsible for what we allow these politicians to do. So I don't, I see what they doing, but they've been doing what they've been doing for a long time. It's us. We're the ones that don't like all these active shooting situations. we don't have Secret Service and we don't have bodyguards and people protecting us and all that type of stuff. So we're going to have to, at some point, get to the point where we say enough is enough.
Yeah.
And start passing some meaningful legislation. But I don't know, maybe it isn't bad enough yet. I think it's getting to the point where people are starting, at least no changes are going to have to be made. But now they're looking at the situation and their motivation isn't there to actually force these politicians to do an about face. And I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the era of alternative facts or whatever, where people can look at the situation and then gets confused at what they're looking at because they have this this back noise. And I saw, in fact, I should remember this saying I saw back in the day, but it was like, okay, if I had a problem and if I could remove one thing and the problem go away, then why would I not do that? And it was kind of like making an analogy. I think it was like, okay, you're saying that gun violence, it's not the gun that's the problem. But if you remove the gun, you wouldn't have the problem.
Right.
So the logical conclusion would be remove the gun. Get to a place where but you already know that's going to be a battle, right? We've got to change the culture. Americans, we love our weapons. I mean, I have firearms myself. They're safely secured. They're stored. I think I have a reasonable, mind. To protect my family. That's the only reason I'm using a firearm, is to protect myself from my family. I'm not out here trying to be, an avenger or, or help the police out, anything like that. They got their job. I got mine, right?
Yeah.
And but now the problem is the folks that don't have that mindset, that have a gun, that don't have a reasonable approach to life, and feel like there's these people coming to take their country or whatever the case may be, and they're the ones that are the one. It's almost like that horror movie where you're looking for this thing that's doing these horrible things, and then toward the end of the movie, you look in the mirror and it's you. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
what I feel about a lot of these folks. They're delusional, and the threat that they're looking for is right there in their house. It's their kid that they're letting play Call of Duty all day and all night, and GTA all day and all night, telling them, hey, we're gonna go to the range, I'm gonna get you a gun. The world is going down the hill and all this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're doing is conditioning your child to be the next active shooter. I mean, you got to pay attention to what you say, what rhetoric that you put out there. Now you believe in the nonsense and the hype. And I know, out of all the listeners we got somebody that knows somebody that's got a child. Statistically, I'm just looking at it. Somebody is listening to this show right now that knows somebody that has a child that could be potentially an active shooter.
Yeah.
And the difference is going to be possibly them or getting somebody that's going to intervene to be able to talk and see what's going on with this young man, and hopefully interject a little reality into what's going on, and or young lady. I mean, I guess most of the active shooters I've seen have been males recently, but something about that testosterone, man, and lack of wisdom. We've got all the information access in the world, but how much wisdom do we get? And one of the things, as we're going to be going to Japan soon and whatnot. And I already told my daughter, it's going to be about 2 or 3 elderly people I'm going to have you helping out and helping to take care of and listening to.
Yes.
Right. I'm going to make sure I always have elders that my daughter can listen to, that I listen to. That's how you get wisdom. And read good old Proverbs. You know what I'm saying? This right here is still
the number one book.
That's the foundation. I know people.
Yes.
People want, I'm a therapist. Yes, I know that DSM-5 and 4. I know all that. But I'm gonna tell you that good book right there has got all the solutions in there. And that's really where we got to get back to. I'll just be real. I think the scripture says if they would just humble themselves and hear my voice, because we don't have the answers. We don't have all the answers. If people are looking to this show for all the answers, all I can tell you is one thing me and Ron are good at is good old common sense.
Hey, I said to somebody, who did I say that to? I said Joseph said one thing that everybody listen. You can't teach common sense.
Can't. Yeah, if you come into this show for me to teach common sense, it's too late. it's too late. All I can tell you is, you got to look to them elders. You got to get to a church somewhere, talk to some of them mothers, and then shut up. I'll say it. Some people like to say that, but that's a good old word. Shut up. Close your mouth and listen. Let them tell you something. Because if you talking, they're not going to talk.
And let's talk about common sense. The reason why I bring it up, somebody asked me the other day, where do you get common sense from? I said, when you was a kid, you touched that stove, it was hot, you didn't do it again. Ask common sense not to do that again.
Well, there's two ways to get common sense, right? If you can listen to elders or people that have experienced something, or you can learn it the good old-fashioned hard way.
Yep.
Now, my question is, the people that seem to should have gotten common sense, and I'm going to talk about us, American people, right? We just went through COVID. We're still going through COVID. COVID is still killing people, by the way. My wife wanted me to make sure I said today, because she's an RN, that, look, I know that the president said that the pandemic is over and all that. People are still dying from COVID. Okay, so keep that in mind, as you go out and about in your daily activities. COVID hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
It may not be killing as many people as it used to, but one person is too many.
Yeah.
So, keep that in mind. But common sense, man, it really comes from something that people don't do anymore. Communication, talking to each other, knowing how to critically think, having experiences, and observing and learning, from mistakes. Every year, those of us that work in the schools and work with people in school have to say the same conversation every year. Be careful with these. Don't put anything out there that you don't want your college or your parents or the law enforcement seeing.
Yeah.
Every year we have to do that. And guess what? Every year, somebody messes up. Every year.
I'm glad you brought that up. I got something that happened that still boggles the mind. I'm not going to say the company I work for, but we were doing inventory. So this one guy drove up in his van, had a half a can of beer and an empty can of beer in the cup holder in the company truck. He thought there was nothing wrong with that. I turned around. The main safety guy for the national office was there and seen that. Of course, he was fired. He was fired right on the spot.
When was this, Ron? Please tell me this wasn't like recently.
Oh, no. This is about 10, 12 years ago.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
But
that sounds like some stuff back in the like early 80s or late 70s.
No, but he felt he didn't do anything wrong. Then he turned around and said, well, every time I go home, I grab a couple beers and I sit out my work truck and drink. Number one, he said he grabbed a couple beers. That means he was a company vehicle getting it. Number two, he was drinking out in the vehicle doing it, and then showed up right there. Oh, it gets better than that. So he calls his wife, said, come pick me up, because I got terminated for having beer cans. And he didn't say, he said he had empty beer cans, but one was half full. So the wife get there, it made it worse. She came out cussing and fussing and told the safety guy, you so fat, and how do you know about anything? She just went ballistic on everybody. So I told her, I said, you're not doing this any better right now. So what you do is go sit in your car, let us finish doing everything over here. That'd be the best for everybody. She looked at me and said, F you, I do what I want to do. I said, fine, you go right ahead on. We got a disturbance over here. Can I get a couple officers over here? They showed up. Not only he got fired, she got arrested. and he ended up driving. So he lost his job, probably his wife for a few hours, so they bailed her out. But Where did common sense come to play right there? Number one, he was wrong doing that. And number two, she was wrong come over there fussing.
Ron, that was a perfect example of common sense being taught.
Yeah.
So you got somebody that obviously alcohol, one of the first things that it affects is it impairs judgment. That's one of the first things it does. So that's why in his mind, he's probably thinking, well, what did I do wrong? Well, his mind is impaired, and been impaired for a long period of time. Yeah. And I remember back in the late 70s, early 80s is what I meant to say. There was it was legal for you to drink, to have a beer in your vehicle.
Yeah.
Right. It was also legal for you not to wear seatbelts. So you think about that combination. It was legal for you to have a beer and not wear your seatbelt. It's a wonder we all are made it back in the
back in the days.
That's a whole other conversation. But that's an example of what I'm talking about. Common sense, and I can give you so many stories. Trust me, on how people in the wrong don't even care that they're wrong. They just want to respond. And that's another one. A person is terminated. That's one of the reasons where I think a person should be placed on an ED.
Yeah.
Or at least there should be a warrant issued when a person is terminated, and they can make sure they don't have any access, at least for 90 days or more, to a firearm.
Right.
Until they get support services, maybe get some job help lined up, whatever, make sure that they're stable. We're going to, these are the things that we've seen turn into active shooter situations. Disgruntled workers that have been terminated, children that are introverts that continue to go down to a path where they don't have anybody reach out to them. They don't feel like they have anybody they can connect with. That's why it's important to have counseling in schools, so we can, give even that child a sense of belonging. Or we used to do this thing in the schools called lunch group, a lunch bunch, where kids that aren't fitting in socially will have a place to go and they can sit in and feel like they belong.
Right.
You've got to develop those type of things. And you've got to know the value of those type of things. COVID should have taught everybody the value of socialization in schools versus at home. Even my daughter started dealing with depression with everything at her fingertips, but she's not able to socialize in school during COVID. We kept her out for 2 years. And she's doing a lot better in school, right? Because she's able to socialize. It's important to socialize and to learn that skill, how to communicate with your peers, right? And also how to deal with rejection, deal with bullies, deal with all that. You need those skills, because you don't want to be the first time, you get rejected. The person got fired and his wife lost her mind, ended up getting arrested, right? So that's somebody that doesn't know how to deal with adversity. Never had to deal probably with being told no, right?
And she's the same one that says she didn't see a problem with 2 beer cans and you in a company vehicle.
Like I said, common sense is no longer common. You cannot expect, you just can't expect people to understand things at the level. One of the mental issues that most people have, and I have to remind myself of this all the time when I'm driving or when I'm dealing with people. When you communicate with other people, you assume them to be at your level or higher.
Yeah.
You assume that. But doggone well, and I'm not being offensive to anybody, trying not to be, that there were a group of kids in special classes in your school. Those kids didn't just vaporize when they got older. They moved out into society just like we did.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with somebody that just don't get it, it may be that they just don't get it because they were one of those kids in one of those rooms, right? So, you just got to understand, if a person is cutting you off on the road or whatever the case may be, might be one of those kids. You know what I'm saying?
And leave that
kid. You can't assume that everything is done with intent towards you. because sometimes people are they just ain't there. Lights on, nobody's home. You know what I'm saying?
Just
So,
like this one person came up to me. She had a brother, and he said, "Oh, my brother, he always doing this and doing that. Oh, I just can't stand the stuff that he do." And I looked at him. I said, "Have you ever looked at his side? Maybe he can't stand the stuff that you're doing, but he's not as vocal as you are about it."
wow. And what did she say? You didn't
Nothing.
say
She couldn't say nothing
nothing
after that.
because she never thought about it. You know what I'm saying? And listen, one of the main things we do in our mentorship group is we teach critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
That's one of my roles. And I make people watch, and this is something the kids can start doing. If you got any parents listening to the show, have your children be able to talk to you about news on the local, national, and international level.
Yes.
Have them start talking to you about those things. The reason that's important is because if they're planning on going to college, they're going to be writing about a lot of this stuff. Oh, and by the way, they're going to need to know how to write. They need to know about the APA format. They need to know about MLA format. You're not going to get any degree without having to write some papers.
Yeah. Ooh, amen to that.
So, you'd be surprised at how many of our kids don't know how to write, or their version is cut and paste, which is plagiarism.
And some don't even know how to fill out a job application.
Don't know how to fill out a job application. Look, there's some basic skills that we are going to have to, and to me, that's a social skill as well, being able to write. Because that's a form of expression, that's a form of communication. And most therapists are going to have you start writing a journal.
Yeah.
How are you going to write in a journal if you don't know how to write anything? Right. So one of the things I do just naturally, having clients journal, is helping them to grow educationally. And I usually assign them some reading. Right. So we've got to get to that point. You can't really get knowledge without reading, doing research. And that's why I think we're going full circle. It's so important that we undermine the idiots like DeSantis, Abbott, who, I'm calling them idiots, because anybody that's cutting the ability to learn off doesn't know what they're creating.
More of them.
When you have a society that doesn't know their history, doesn't know who they are, then they become lost. Or they stay lost.
Yeah.
When they stay lost, they're going to have to do what they need to do to survive, which means none of us are going to be safe.
Ooh.
None of us are going to be safe. So you got to look past the immediate. When you don't have any sense of pride, what am I trying to say? Sense of self-pride, knowing what you've gone through. The immediate harm is that it can be repeated. The other part is you don't know the strength that you've had or your ancestors have had to get you to this point.
Yeah.
And other people won't know why you feel the way you feel. See, a lot of people don't know. Like I've talked to other folks, even our own culture. They're like, well, Joseph, why do you consider yourself African American? Have you ever been to Africa? Ha ha ha. How are you African American? I said, I tried not to call him idiot. But the point is, if you don't consider yourself African American, you disrespect all the folks that died in the Middle Passage getting here. Your history didn't start at slavery. If you're a person of color, if you're Black or you're African American, people died in your lineage to get you here. And there's some very strong people that made it through that Middle Passage to start your American journey.
Yeah.
So that's why I say African American. And when I told that to a person who happened to be a Jewish person, he was like, I never thought about it that way. But then I proceeded to say how the African American experience and the Jewish experience are very similar. Because every one of those people that went to Auschwitz and Dachau and were killed, they had all their gold taken out of their mouth and all their wealth was stripped away from them. What happened with African Americans in this country? We were brought over this country to work in the slave trade and to harvest cotton and the other crops that were needed. Wealth. Both of us were exploited for wealth.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, common sense. The Nazis were doing more than just stripping them of wealth. They were actually ethnic cleansing people. They were trying to kill off a race of people. They tried to steal our heritage and our history. And they're still trying to steal our history by not educating us, or allowing us to get our kids educated with their history and their value and their contributions to this country and our struggles. So there it is. I mean, if you want a common sense is a combination of knowing who you are, knowing your history, communicating with your peers and like-minded people that are upwardly mobile, and just getting a real grasp of reality. But when you have alternate facts out there,
alternate facts.
When you have alternate facts, it's hard to have common sense.
Yeah.
Because that's the inverse of common sense, alternate facts. And that's why so many people are lost when they're hit with reality. Have you ever noticed, and I talked to Tiff about this the other day, have you ever noticed that when people that are, and I'm beat up on the far right folks today, a lot of them that, when they don't want to admit that they're wrong, they say, well, I don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
Remember that? If you talk to them, because they're listening to one news source that's saying the news is all fake and theirs is the fakest of it all. And then they don't want to believe the facts. So they say, well, instead of admitting they're wrong, they say, well, I don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're primed to be brainwashed because you don't want the facts that are different than what you believe them to be. So if there's some idiot that's out there willing to tell you whatever you want to hear, you're going to believe that. But the price is, while you're listening to what he wants you or they want you to believe, they're taking care of themselves financially.
You said again, money.
It always goes down to, I know that's somewhat of a socialist or Marxist phrase, but always follow the money, man. If you want to see what's going on and what's wrong, follow the money. Why are there so many guns out on the street? The money. Why are politicians not willing to stand up to the NRA? The money. Why is there a lack of educational resources and programs? Because the school system is now, the prison system is now on the stock exchange. So think about it. In my hometown, the county jail now is a prison. Started as a county jail, but it's now a prison. They put it on the stock exchange. So how serious do you think they're going to be about the school system?
Yeah, you got a point there.
Think about it. If I put you in this cell, I don't have to worry about you. I've got all your labor. I don't have to worry about, your contribution, because your contribution is going to be counter of my objectives anyway. So I'm going to make this nice cell for you. I'll make it real nice. I'm get nice inside gym, TV, brand new cell. And yeah, we're going to give you some opportunities too, maybe, let you go to community college for free, but God help you getting there. Yeah. And when you get there, God help you getting out. Because I've probably just socially promoted you from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. And then you either drop out or, get out barely. And then you got to function at a college level. school to prison pipeline paradigm. Been talking about that for years.
Yes, and that's how
Right?
you got to set up.
Yeah, that's how it's set up. You know, where I'm from is uniquely set up. Literally, you go to there's a mental health facility, juvenile detention, and then prison is right down the street. Or you go to the right, you go to Michigan Works, and you can go get you a job.
Get your education while you at it.
Everything is right there on one block. I've never seen a city lay it out so clearly. Like, either you're gonna get your mind right and go to the right, get you a job and move up, get you education, or you're gonna move on to the left and start out in the mini prison and then go on to the real prison and then go on to the penitentiary.
Ugh.
And
You
it
know
felt like I
that,
was fighting against that truck every day I was there. Because
and,
I watched that bus. I watched that bus pull kids into that juvenile detention. And I knew if we couldn't get to them, they were going further down the street. And that's real.
I know it's real because the budgets now are made for the prison system. You know, all state got a budget. We gotta have this many inmates in order to do this. How are we gonna do that?
Yeah.
Go to Black community.
And here's the thing. Here's the big thing about all of this, right? That's a tragedy in itself. But when you look at the societies that are doing better, that are on the come up, you look at China, you look at, other countries, they put their resources where they're supposed to be, on their children. Look at how the Chinese teachers are paid versus our American teachers. Just look at it. Look at how they value education and that everybody get a quality education, not a miseducation. Not taking stuff out of the last thing we need to be doing is taking books out of the school.
Yeah.
I don't care. You may not agree with it. You may not like what that book is saying. Well, then do your job and educate. Educate is going to make you do your job as a parent. I got a whole lot of books that I reread, and look at, because I need to know what's challenging, what they're trying to put in front of my child's mind. And then on top of that, you need to be reading spiritually. So, the Holy Spirit can minister to you and let you know if this is a trick of the devil. And I'm talking about some little advanced, stuff right now.
Yeah.
But you got to understand, everything needs to go through a spiritual lens, because the tricks of the enemy could come right through education. I got a book up here about irreversible damage. You check that out. The transgender craze seducing our daughters. Got to look at it. Know what's going on out here.
Yeah.
Because what people want you to do is be blind to what's going on. Everything that's happening in government right now is happening or not happening for a reason. And you just got to be wise enough to look at it. And we have to be wise enough to move beyond survival to visionary.
Yeah.
I love being around visionaries. And visionaries are people that, can look at something that's not there yet and see it as if it is. And then we need people that are willing to work to get that done. And people that don't want to, get them out the way.
Amen to that, because
get them out the way.
If you have a vision about something and you tell somebody about it, this is what I want, this is what I see, a lot will see that with you, come on board with you. And you're right. Then you got those out there that say, they ain't gonna work. Well, those ones you don't need right away. They already
I love those. I love those folks that I call them my haters. I love haters, because what haters do is I had this little saying that I'm put puts more of this stuff on my YouTube channel as well. But your enemies should be pretty solid, because when you elevate over them, you need to have a strong foundation. I'll let that sink in. Your enemies are your stepping stone.
There, yeah, I picked up on that.
Yeah, it's somebody in the audience is like, wait a minute, that made a lot of sense. But let me. So you're gonna go over your haters. And what it took me a long time to figure out is the reason your haters were hating on you is because they saw potential in you that you didn't see yourself. But once you realize what they see, then what you can do is elevate and confirm what they saw. Yeah, I am going to be successful. Yeah, I am going to do what I said I was going to do because I first sought God's approval and wisdom and guidance on what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And whatever God places you in, can't nobody touch you. And you're going to have opposition, right? Because you're going to be doing God's work. So your opposition should be strong. That lets me know you're making a difference. That should let you know you're making a difference.
Yeah.
I had people making twice my salary, 3 times my salary, trying to stop what I was doing in my hometown. But they didn't. I still got my office there right now. I've been down here for 7 years. Still seeing folks up there. Still elevating. Now about to move to an international realm. Why? Because what God instills in you is needed for the world. And that's how you get that real common sense, right? When God seasons you, when God seasons you, he brings you through things so that you can identify who you're supposed to help. Oh yeah, that person's struggling with what I struggled with back at this stage in my life. That person struggling with, okay, with that, that piece. Oh, that person, they just don't understand their vision yet. Right?
Yeah.
But see, the enemy wants to keep you confused. They want to keep you in alternate facts, right? When your reality is right there and better than you could possibly even imagine it. But you've got to understand a couple of things. Number one, what your gift is. What you're supposed to be doing with that gift. And 3, you got to refine it. You got to invest in it, and you got to work.
Exactly.
And that's the part where people lose it, right? They want everything. That's what this generation is really going to. Younger generation is going to struggle because they might figure out what their vision is. They might figure out what their passion is, but then they want to go right to the top.
They don't want to start from the bottom and work way up.
Yeah, they want to start from the CEO and go up. Right? They want
That's when you start your own business. You can do that because you are starting from the bottom when you start your own business.
Yeah, when I laugh at the youngsters, man. I don't laugh. I just help them to refine their process because there's something about starting at the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you start at the bottom, you learn how to make it to the top and stay there. So if you get all this money and you get what people think they want right off the bat, you're not going to keep it because you don't know how to maintain it. You don't know how to get up there.
Yeah.
See, I've had a successful practice because I've had to learn a few lessons. I studied people that had successful practices. I implemented what I saw and put my own twist to it.
Yeah.
That's how it's done. Right. And then people are like, Joe, how can you do this? Or how can you do that? Well, I'll tell you what, you can do it, but are you willing to do the work to get to it?
There it is. You said it right there.
Yeah.
You do the work.
Everybody wants the shortcut. Some things you can't shortcut. You just can't. You have to go through it because there's something that happens in that seasoning, in that growth period. Sometimes I realize I do stuff and I don't even know. So one of my roles is I go and I represent EAPs. I don't know what business I'm going to be going into. I've been to professional level sport arenas, to car factories, to banks. I don't know where I'm going, but I have a skill set that knows what to do based on whatever situation I'm in.
Right.
But I had to master that before I could go in and demand what I get paid per hour. And that took some seasoning. That took me stepping out. Here's this Black guy coming in these Fortune 500 companies or these high-level positions. Took a little confidence. But once they see that confidence and see your competence, you're going to get called back. you're going to be successful. But to be confident and competent means you got to put that work in. And that's where these teens don't understand. Yeah, you might get lucky and get a whole bunch of likes on something, but that may not be your passion. That may not be your gift. That just may be something you're lucky at doing.
Yeah. And that runs out sometime.
And luck runs out. Ask all these entertainers. People don't know about what they call the one-hit wonders.
Yes.
It don't mean that they didn't try to put out any other songs. It's just they had one hit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so a lot of these guys and girls, they think they're going to be a pro basketball player, do this or do that. Great. Dream. But have something real to fall back on.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing that we gotta, teach our kids. There was rest in peace to Kevin Samuels, who said this in a lot of mean ways, but he did have a good point. He would say that ladies that would call in and couldn't figure out, I'm sorry to laugh, but I just remembered some of the stuff he would say. And he would, with no filter, kind of say, what's wrong with being average? He would say that.
Yeah.
If you're average, meaning that, you've got a nice car, a nice house or whatever, but you're trying to find a multimillionaire to marry, what's he looking at with you? What are you bringing to the table, right?
Yeah.
We got to get to the point where we start looking at each other and how we can build, not looking for the finished product, not looking for the expert. Because if it's a multi-millionaire guy just sitting there waiting for you, I'd be a little suspicious. But some of this generation, they think that's it. Oh, I'm gonna just show up and I'm gonna get this millionaire type of guy, and okay, well, what happened to his last significant other?
Yeah.
Ask any questions? Just gonna jump
Right.
right into the relationship,
And you don't even
and
know how
half
he
the
is.
time a lot.
He could be one of them kids that was in that slow class.
Or yeah, it definitely could be in that slow class, or it could be in another class, could be in that class that that they never can come out of. I'll put it like that. People come up missing. Like you got to look at more than the financial, physical. You got to look at everything. You got to look at somebody's mental well-being, because you may not know somebody until they snap. See, a lot of horror movies about that. Meeting Mr. Right, who turned out to be Mr. all the way wrong, right?
Like on TV, there's this one program said, "Who did the bleep did I marry?"
Yeah, So I'm gonna get into this a little bit on the relationship section I do, but one of the things I've noticed about women that make the mistake that they make is they date the potential. They're dating the potential of a person, not the person that they are really with. And women do that all the time. They look at a guy and say, okay, well, if he just does this or does that, then he'll be the man of my dreams. Well, what people don't understand is, and what women don't understand a lot of times is, they know what you perceive, and they don't really intend on ever being that.
You got a point there.
How many women do you know have been waiting and praying for this guy to become something that he obviously is not interested in becoming right now? So, but if you don't take the time to find out what's really going on, what you may find is that you just got an imposter, or somebody that's not really going to be or ever evolve into what you need them to be.
And I can use one word right there: settle. They settle for that. That's good enough for me. I'm settling for that, and that's it. And that's what you're going to get.
Yep. And I've seen a lot of folks settle, or they just have this hope that it's going to change. Well, how do I lead the show? your actions speak so loudly. I can't hear a word you're saying. Always look at the actions.
Yeah.
Because other than that, you just having game run on you.
Well, you
And
did that good. Look at you. Are you looking at your clock over there or what?
yeah, man, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to keep us on track. I
That's all
did
right.
yeah. Now we do need to get on these secret documents the next time, man, because
Okay.
it's obvious that we're gonna have to do something in terms of public policy on secret documents
You ain't kidding.
because
Well, they weren't that secret because they weren't missing, except for the other one. But other than that,
it's you know what I don't even know what to say, man. I mean, it's obvious that Trump, his situation obviously is different.
yeah.
But you can't deny that it's a problem when Biden, Pence, and probably two or three other people just had top secret documents just sitting around the crib. Like,
Yeah.
what? So obviously that's going to have to we're going to have to address that issue. But I feel like this: what everybody needs to suffer, whatever consequence they need to suffer
Exactly.
with these secret documents. I'm not just beholden in Trump getting charged. Look, if you make the mistake, you got to pay the price.
Yep.
That's what we got to start getting to, and holding these folks to. And if the Republicans want to open up a probe so much on Biden, then keep that. Oh, do the same thing on Trump then.
Oh, they're not going to let that happen.
Well, I mean, that's what we got to get to. Other than that, it's just another political dog and pony show. And that's what we got to get rid of. All that dog and pony stuff. Let's get down to the real stuff. And we got some real issues that need to be dealt with. But again, the action speaks so loudly. I can't hear a word they're saying. I said I worked it in twice, man. Come on.
You're all right. You're all right, brother.
We did that. All right, man.
All right.
Hey.
Well, we did good today. We only over 12 minutes.
That's right. We did good. We did good.
We did all right. It happens.
That's it, man.
But next week, let's definitely talk about the files.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it, man. We brought it up, we covered it. Now we'll get into it a little bit further. But Black History Month, man. Just glad to kick it off, talking about some relevant issues, things that I think will help. And I'll let you know of some other things too that are going on that we can put on the radio. Just little events and things from the Divine Nine that I hear about. I'll let you know about it. Maybe you can just mention it. I know we got an HBCU fair going on this weekend. I can get you some more information about that.
Okay.
I'll keep you in the loop on it.
Yeah, let me know. Send me some flyers so we get everything posted.
Will do. All right.
All right, Joseph. Talk to you later.
All right.
All right.